It's not necessarily a happy ending, it's just a better ending, because these drugs will kill you. Addiction is always involuntary. I mean, I know that when I was in pain, I didn't care what I was taking. I had no idea until I got into rehab that I was basically a heroin addict.
Of course, now I think, why didn't I do it sooner? Why did I let it get there? But it was because I was ashamed. I was so ashamed of myself. I felt so degraded.
Yeah, so my GP knew quite quickly. So he said, you know, you're a drug addict. I absolutely refused to admit it. And so we sort of, like I said, we started this kind of twisted dance between us where he, in effect, became my dealer and I became a drug addict.
My drug dealer was a doctor, had the plug from Big Pharma. He said that he would heal me, but he only gave me problems. My drug dealer was a doctor, had the plug from Big Pharma. I think he trying to kill me, tried to kill me for $1.
Tramadol, it's always has been a problem, but certainly over the last 4 or 5 years, I think it's become more of a problem. And so especially in terms of not only just prescription medication, but also over-the-counter medication as well. So this is kind of medication that you can buy from the pharmacy as well. So it is increasing. I've got a feeling that it's more like what we're seeing is actually it's the tip of the iceberg.
Those pills, that crumb, that roach. Thinking I will never do that, not that drug. Growing up, nobody ever does. Until you're stuck, looking in the mirror like I can't believe what
A drug addiction comes in many different guises, really. Basically, you can have a physical addiction, or you can have a mental addiction. We talk about prescription drugs and addiction. There are 3 main kinds. There's the opioid, there's a stimulant, and there's a depressant. So the opium-based ones, codeine, cocodamol, painkillers, people will abuse those widely because it makes them feel better.
So the main ones that we're seeing over-the-counter medications, it's things like combinations of paracetamol and codeine, also combinations of Nurofen and also codeine as well, and also things like cough medicines. So some of them have like opioid-like constituents in cough medicine as well. And also now and then we see people that get addicted to things like antidepressants as well, so that's another problem.
Yes, so my GP knew quite quickly, within about 4 weeks of me taking extra lozenges. So he said, you know, you're a drug addict. I absolutely refused to admit it. And so we sort of, like I said, we started this kind of twisted dance between us where he, in effect, became my dealer and I became a drug addict. And I know from talking to him that he was trying to work a process with me, but it took us right up to this extreme position where by the time he actually cut me off and said, I'm not prescribing any more painkillers, I was on 60 fentanyl lozenges a day and all on prescription from him.
It's true that older and middle-aged women are one of the risk groups, but there are many others, and indeed anyone can develop a dependency. I would first of all take their face value, what they are saying to me, but I would also sort of use some clinical skills to try and assess what pain they're actually in, and to what extent that's physical, to what extent that's psychological. And it's often a very difficult thing. We don't always get it right either.
So it's not necessarily a happy ending, it's just a better ending, because these drugs will kill you, essentially. If you're abusing them in the way that I was abusing them, then they will kill you.
Frequently feel that under pressure, and I think that is one of the warning signs that I have really, that if I'm feeling that, then just to try and explore that a little bit. And it is a lot harder to say no than it is to write a prescription.
So it happened over a series of time. In 2004, I was struck down overnight with a very serious condition called acute on chronic pancreatitis. And I spent nearly 4 years, mostly in hospital. I was on an IV morphine drip, and the times I was sent home on oxycodone, another opioid. In 2007, I was referred up to a London hospital to a specialist department, and they switched me onto IV fentanyl. I was discharged at the start of 2008 from hospital with a repeat prescription for fentanyl lozenges, and really by that stage I was heavily dependent on opioids. The fentanyl saved my life, and then of course it nearly killed me.
I think it's beholden on all GPs when issuing strong analgesics to give that with a caveat and a warning that actually be careful. We don't want you to take these regularly because you could develop a dependency. So I think that we have responsibilities when we're doing that. I think that we often do over-medicalise things, and actually, you know, a pill for every ill, there is not.
I would get my prescription from the GP, and I would shout and scream and lie about having pain attacks and manipulate and do anything I could to get that green slip of paper. I'd then go home and I would binge on them. I would then eke out the remaining lozenges until the very earliest time I could go back to the GP and get the next prescription. I mean, it was literally hell.
What people tend to do is do circuits of different pharmacies, because you're only allowed to buy a couple of packets. Obviously the pharmacists get to know you, so then people are going out of town to buy them and getting just use them as drug dealers, basically, pharmacists.
Someone may buy a medicine from a pharmacy, say like Lemsip, and then go and buy a packet of paracetamol elsewhere. We see people returning for medication. Sometimes it's genuine, sometimes they've spoken to their doctor and they've got permission to buy certain painkillers. But yeah, there's plenty of little sort of schemes that we have in place. We've got a good relationship with other local pharmacies, and if we notice somebody who's possibly buying the medicine a bit too frequently for what we'd like, we'd ring like the local Boots. We'd just ring and say, just be careful, this person, this is a prescription, possibly buying this, yeah, just keep an eye on them. And we've had to have words with patients just to say, yeah, maybe you're buying this a little bit too frequently, yeah, we can help you out with this.
Obviously doctors don't get along with patients. Doctors are getting more and more stretched, not enough time to do the full needs assessment, and it is easy for people to just say, I need a repeat prescription.
You have to just, sometimes you think, I can't do it, and you think you're not strong, and maybe you don't feel strong, and I don't want people to think out there, well, actually, you know, I'm not in that place right now, so I won't go and get help, because you never feel like you're going to be in that place. I would just say, just go for it. The hardest part is asking for help. I cannot tell you how amazing my family have been. I just thought, you know, I'd gone out my way, I'd been to uni, I'd done, you know, 2 degrees, I'd done this, I'd done that, you know, that would make them proud. And actually, I just thought everything else that I'd done was just a disgrace, and they wouldn't want anything to do with me. But they're not ashamed of you. They want you to get help. I remember my daughter just putting her hand on my hand, just hugging me and telling me she was so proud of me. And I thought, proud of what? But it takes a lot to make a change in your life.
If, for example, someone is ordering frequently before it's due, if there are frequent excuses that their prescription has been lost or mislaid, then those are sort of signs that actually something may be going wrong and someone may be developing a problem.
You can buy any prescription drug you want, you can buy it online. We tend to zoom in on young people, but this isn't just a young person's problem. This is a problem from young right through to old. when that withdraws, when that goes away, and depending upon which drug you're abusing, the stark reality is that you can never achieve that first feeling. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to achieve the unachievable.
Yeah, withdrawal symptoms, they're not very nice. I would be sweating, I would have very intense muscle cramps, I couldn't sleep. I would have hallucinations. At one stage, when I was trying to come off via my GP and cutting down, I was seeing devils in the beams and hearing orchestras coming through the plug sockets. You know, you kind of go, there's a sort of opioid delirium. I had 6 weeks, and that's the amount of money I had, and actually it worked very well in focusing me on getting off them.
So I think perhaps if there was a little bit more care with who gets prescribed what and when, and also having been prescribed, how that prescription gets repeated, then perhaps that might help. But I wouldn't know how to do that, because obviously the resources of the health service are stretched to the limit now. So the easy option when someone goes to see the GP is prescription.
I realised that everything that I'd been through was really extreme, but that also if it happened to me, it could happen to anybody, because you know, we're only ever a case of back pain or a car accident away from exposure to these kinds of drugs.
My drug dealer was a doctor, had the plug from Big Pharma. He said that he